All right. Everybody should see something that says you are now recording.
Yes.
Cool. All right. So today, what we want to do is take a look at starting to prep and get our final projects ready for sheets. So what can you see? You still see attendance?
I just see you.
Right now you're showing just the gallery, no screen share.
No screen share. What happened to it? Share.
I might have taken it while you were gone.
You probably did. It's
Yeah.
okay. All right. So what? All right. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to look at creating um, some enlarged views. Okay. So I'm going to take this area. This is my workshop. And I'm going to create an enlarged view of this building. Okay. So what that means ultimately is when we create an enlarged view, normally we're viewing something at like 1/8 inch scale or 16th inch scale, maybe even 3/32, right? Depending on what type of drawing, how big the drawing is, what it's trying to convey. But a lot of times you will end up with a drawing and you'll end up with something like this. So um, let me pull this up real quick and you guys can see a real world example of what we're looking at. If I can ever sign into my Autodesk. Come on. Next. Yep, it's me. All right. So perfect. This will work just fine. Oh, let's go to Rev 10 and let's go to, I don't know, 2.01 C is a good one. So what we're looking at and what we're gonna, can everyone see my screen with my document up on it? Okay. So this is a plan, right? This is an electrical plan that I've been using in my job. Everything that's green has been modeled. Not only modeled, but it's turned green because I've gone through it and I've done a QC check on it as well. So kind of a cool workflow. But what I wanted to bring up is an enlarged view. So right here, right, this should have had an enlarged view, but they didn't put one in. And see how busy this is and messy, right? There's a lot of stuff. And is it legible? I guess, right? You can make it out, but it's not great, right? And so a lot of times you'll end up with enlarged views. So right here, we're going to go take a look at one. So right here, it's saying, hey, this room, go look at detail 1A on sheet 511. So if I go to sheet 511 and look at detail 1A, you will now see the power requirements for this is a head wall in a hospital, right? So we got a lot of circuits a lot of different emergency going on, right? And they don't want to necessarily draw this out 12 different times with all the different circuit numbers on it every time. So what they do is they built a typical, right? So this is just a typical diagram saying, hey, this is on circuit 2, this is on circuit 1. And if you go back to here, the main drawing just calls out the two different circuits that are in that room, right? So you reference back and forth between the two of them because this would be too much of a cluster to try to look at in 1/8 inch scale, right? So you'll see here, this is 1/8 inch scale. When we go to this in plan view, in the enlarged view, this is now in 1/4 inch scale. So at a minimum, you always at least double your size when you go from a plan view to an enlarged view of that area. One other thing, typically, and we'll get into it a little bit with our rooms as well. But one thing you'll notice is if you have an enlarged view, you don't detail in it. The only thing that's detailed in it is pertinent information that's not included in the enlarged view. So if we're dimensioning something in the enlarged view, we don't want those same set of dimensions on our plan view, right? On our normal one. Anything that's in an enlarged view, you go reference that view, and now you're looking at that view to take a look at it. So any questions before we move on? Have you guys seen enlarged views before? Is that something that's a new concept? Um,
You mean outside of this class, correct?
Outside of this class, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dozens of times.
Right? Any set of plans that you look at is going to have some type of enlarged views or detailed views or section cuts or what have you, right? And that's what taking a model and putting it together in a detailed sheet does, right? So you need to create all these different views, all these different enlarged models, right? Enlarged views, enlarged 3D views, right? Just to get your point across. So it's really easy to make more sheets. It's not easy to pack everything into one drawing, right? So, yeah, again, here's another enlarged view, 4A511. This one's a little bit more extensive than the one we looked at before, but same concept is here, right? So this is a room that here's the enlarged view. And this one actually does give you every circuit because this isn't a typical. This is happening one time. It says typical because there's 3 different rooms that are very similar, but this is the only instance in the project where we have this view. Whereas this one up here, this repeats like 8 or 9 different rooms have that same kind of typical detail. So a couple different reasons for doing it. 1, for the typicals, and 2, just for space, for being able to detail at a much larger scale, right? So then everything can be seen. All right. So that's what we're going to do today, is create some enlarged views. So I'd like you to take a room, preferably something that you have somewhat populated. Maybe if it's not populated, maybe, and by populated I mean like this, like, you know, there's some furniture in there, a coffee table, right? Maybe some dining tables. Is my kitchen done? No, but you know, that's if you want to use your kitchen as an enlarged view, we can set it up that way. So whatever area you want to do, a bathroom, bedroom, you're required to have one enlarged view, but that doesn't mean that that's the minimum, right? My project, when I put this together, there'll probably be upwards of 10, 15, 20 enlarged views just to show the detail level I want to of all the areas. So I'm going to go ahead and take my bathroom. I think that's a pretty good one to use as my enlarged view. And this one's a little tricky just because of my wall, but let's do this. I don't want to confuse anybody with this. We'll do the upstairs bathroom. Okay, so I'm going to do this upstairs bathroom. And just so we're not seeing a bunch of stuff, let me change my view range. Upstairs 0. And I'll just make it go to like 8 feet. It's fine. And all right, cool. So here's my upstairs. Here's some roof, right? I don't really care. That's not what I'm worrying about. What I want to do is I want to get to a plan view, whether it's upstairs in my case, right? Or if it's your basement level, whatever room you are doing, we need to be on that floor plan view to make this work, right? So if I'm detailing something in my basement, I need to be down in my basement view, right? If I'm detailing something in my upstairs, I need to be in my upstairs view because it's going to reference the view that you drew it on. All right. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm in my upstairs and I'm going to go ahead and go to let me move my zoom bar. I'm going to go to the view tab. And in the view tab, we have this tool right here called a call out. Okay, so this is the tool that we use to create an enlarged view. Now, one thing that's pretty cool about the callout, there's two different ways we can do this. One of them, we could just choose a rectangle and literally click and drag a rectangle. And it's just going to make this little dashed line with this circle. And that creates a callout. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and do that one more time. Huh? Yeah, you're going to do it for the whole bathroom, the whole room that you're trying to detail, right? Maybe it's a living room and a dining room in one. You could divide it, right? Hit the kind of set it wherever you want to. If you want to get both of them in there, that's fine. But we want to get the whole room, whatever you're trying to do. All right, so again, I'm going to go ahead and go to call out. This time I'm going to do sketch. And if you wanted to make something that had a arc to it, that had a triangle, sorry, not an arc, had a triangle to it, had a corner, right? So you can draw some different shapes, right? It doesn't have to be exactly square or rectangular, although most callouts actually are just a square or a rectangle. So something like this. Okay. So what that did for me is it now made a view in your floor plans, and it's going to take whatever view level you were on, maybe it's main floor, basement, and it's going to say, hey, there's now a view called upstairs dash call out one. And if you double click on that view, you now have a view that you only see the call out area that you selected, right? The to open this up, we open it up from the project browser. So double click the upstairs call out one. Do you have one? If you got it. So like since mine was called upstairs, yours called construction 246. Yep. All right. So inside of this, and I'm going to go ahead and turn off my working sections in this view. And again, you can do that by going to if you have a section head that's showing up from one of your working sections being in the area, we can go ahead and hit VG on our keyboard, or up here, this visibility graphics. And let's just go ahead and go to the annotation categories down to S, and we're going to turn sections off. Okay, so that's going to take that section and say, hey, we no longer want to see this type of category, so all sections will disappear. All right. So does upstairs dash call out one mean anything? Is that a good title? Not really, right? So I'm going to rename this. And again, you can click on here. You click on here kind of like slowly. You can get into it. You can also right click and click rename. I'm going to rename this upstairs. I'll say bathroom enlarged plan view. Under annotation categories. Right. So go ahead and rename yours to something that's meaningful. Okay, you'll want to have this later, because when you have something that just says call out one, call out two, call out three, call out four, it's pretty hard to know exactly what you're working on. Obviously, you can open it up and find out, but the goal is to have things named so you can reference them on a sheet or in the view and know what you're talking about, right? All right, so now that I've got this view made, we're going to go ahead and build some interior elevations. So if I go to elevation, now this is a little trickier in the newer version of Revit, So just pay a little bit of attention. There are now two types of elevations. There are interior and exterior elevations. Before, there used to just be one. And when you have an elevation, especially an interior elevation, right here. So make sure when you click on that elevation, the properties is giving you an interior elevation, not a building elevation. Okay, the building elevation is your exterior. The interior one, obviously, is your interior. The difference between the two of them, one of them you can add multiple views, so we can look at multiple walls of the same room, which is what we're going to set up here. And if I click on this circle, I can actually turn on these other checkboxes, which are now creating views of this room, right? The little elevation views. And you'll notice that you now have an interior elevations display, and we have elevations 1A, B, C, and D, right? So I'm going to go ahead and if you click on this line, if you click on the arrowhead, okay, you're going to see two things come up. The first thing you'll notice is this solid line going through the middle of the elevation symbol. What this does, and just like a section, this is the back of your elevation, right? So if I moved this to right here, okay, and I took a cut, I'm not going to see this grab bar, right? This towel rack. That's no longer going to be in my view. Even though it's in my view because it's in the center of the elevation, if I move this, that towel rack will no longer be in there because I've moved the back of the elevation. So essentially where you're standing and where you're looking in front of that towel rack. Does that make sense? Okay. So for this, I'm just going to leave these in the center. I just wanted to let you know that it is an option to move them. And if you're taking a cut somewhere and you're like, why is this? We had one person that was taking an exterior elevation, yet this was actually moved in the middle of their house. So the exterior elevation showed interior walls, right? It was kind of why is this doing this? Until we figured out, oh, the origin of this elevation isn't where it appears to be. It's actually, 40 feet farther away. Thus, it was cutting into the building, not the outside of it, right? So these do move, okay? But the one thing that you want to make sure that they do is stretch from at least wall to wall. And we want to make sure that the view depth or the far clipping offset is extended to so you can see the walls of your room. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that all three of these or all four of these other ones, three other ones, four total, are set up in a way that I can view just what I want to see, right? I don't want to be seeing super far. I don't want to be seeing super wide. But I do want to see the walls in it, right? So make sure that you're cutting through your walls. So when you do take that elevation, that interior elevation cut, you can see that interior wall. And then last but not least, I've got one more to do right here. Okay, so I've set these all up. Now you'll notice right now they just have a dash on them. And this symbol is always going to have a dash until the view is dropped on a sheet. Okay, so Revit is really smart that when a view is dropped on a sheet, whether it's a section view, a elevation, maybe our call out, right? It's not going to place any of this information until that view is on a sheet. Once the view is on a sheet, it will reference exactly where you need to go view this. Okay. So all of these pieces here that just show a dash, this will get filled out automatically once you place it on a sheet. You don't actually manually name this. Whereas AutoCAD, you would type in section A on detail 2, section, whatever. So this will automatically fill out once we drop those views on sheets. All right. So before we get too much further, I don't like these saying elevation 1, A, B, C, and D. I'm going to rename them. And the easiest way to do this, right? Because I don't know just by clicking on this or just by going to the properties which one I'm actually viewing. So if we click on one of the arrows, I know that this is my north wall. So I'm just going to come down in my properties and this elevation 1B, I'll type in upstairs, bath, north, and then repeat the same process for the other three sections. Upstairs, bath, there's bath. South wall. And stairs, bath. Project North is kind of like here. So, all right. So now that I have all those named, all those names now show up here on the elevations sheet. And we can do something with them. So before I start dropping them on sheets, I'm going to go take a look. So I'm going to look at this north wall. And if I double click, I can open it up and you'll see, okay, it did the bathroom wall. Is that as far as I want to see in this section? No, it's not. So I'm actually going to raise that up. Okay, so I see the actual roof of my bathroom. Okay, so the upstairs, this right here, that's the actual floor. This is what I was talking about, Adam. Whereas the top of your floor, right, would be typically your top of your floor is right there at your level line. Okay, so now I can see what I want to see. And if I want to, I could throw some dimensions on this and say that this light is 2'2.25" off of that wall. And I'll give some dimensions on this mirror. Again, the whole point of an enlarged view is so you have enough space so you can give dimensions to elements, right? I don't have my cabinet or my countertop in yet, but at least I could give my dimensions to my mirror, right? So little things like that, that's what we're looking for in your enlarged view, right? Just dimensions of prominent items that are relative to the view, right? So now I know where to place, same thing. I could give an elevation for that towel rack. And I could also say that towel rack, center of towel rack is 2 feet from the wall. So I've now given most everything that I see here. Maybe I want to give a ceiling height. I could give that as well. And I've got a 9'11" ceiling in there, which is true. Okay. Any questions on that? So let's go ahead and look at one more wall. I'll look at this east wall. Oh, well, that's fun. Let's see why I'm not seeing my drop region visible. Well, I sure don't see it. Oh, it is. It's just very small. So sometimes depending on the view, the elevation, right, it tries to guess as what it thinks you want, but it's not always right. So you still got to go in, doctor it up, make sure your view is looking exactly the way you want it to look. Right. So now I got a door here. I could give a dimension to the center line of the door. Right. Maybe a dimension to shower. Yeah, that's all I really see in this view. Right. So and you don't want to be dimensioning things that you see on the side, right? If it's on another wall, right, on your left wall or your right wall, you have another view that's going to face that direction that you want to dimension that, right? So I don't want to dimension this towel rack here, right? because you know what I did? That 4-foot dimension is right there on the towel rack, right? On the view that I'm looking straight at it. All right, south wall. Looks like this one was pretty good. I got to change the crop just a little bit. Probably do something like that. And I could give a dimension from center of toilet, which is also the center of the towel rack. And maybe an elevation to the top bar. I don't know, something like that. And then last but not least, I've got one more. And this one decided, oh, it's going to make it really tiny. So go ahead and bring that up. And mention that off of there, maybe dimension the outsides. I don't know what I want. Maybe that's centered up. So good enough. All right. So there's a couple different views. And now when we put them all together, we can get a big picture. So let's go ahead and build our first sheet. So if we go to the project browser and we come down to sheets, right now we shouldn't have any sheets, although some people may have made some, and that's fine. Okay. And to create a new sheet, there's a couple different ways to do this. One, you can just right click on the sheet and click new sheet. That's how I typically build a sheet because I don't have to, no matter what tab I'm in the ribbon, I can go here and not affect where I'm at with what I'm doing. However, you can also go to view and click this new sheet button. Okay, so it's in the menu in the ribbon as well, new sheet. It is also in your project browser. Okay, so we're going to do right click this or click the new sheet. Either one brings up this new sheet menu, right? Same thing. And we're going to use an E1, a 30 by 42 horizontal. This is a pretty standard size in the industry. Obviously, there's difference for there's arc ease, there's all types of different sizes. Okay, we're just going to go ahead and use this for now. And when I click OK, it automatically creates a new sheet with a title block on it. And we're just going to go ahead and use this title block, right? We could spend a bunch of time revising this, making our own title block, but in the end, when you go work for somebody, they're already going to have a title block. You're not going to be. And if you need to create it, it's not something that's rocket science, right? It's a lot of just line work. So let's go ahead and put some information on here. So client's name, I'll just put Graham Thompson. Don't put Graham Thompson. I know some people love to copy my stuff exactly. Project name, I'll put Yukiko House. Then this for the sheet name, we're gonna call this sheet enlarged views. And I'll just go ahead and call this sheet. Just for now, we're gonna call it sheet we'll call it sheet 5. Just because we'll end up using, there'll be about 6 pages in the packet. This probably will be about your 5th sheet. Again, we can always renumber this, reorder it later. But now, in the left-hand side in your project browser, if you expand your sheets, you have this sheet 5 enlarged views. Okay. And we have upstairs bathroom enlarged plan view and my 4 elevation views. So we're almost there. Let's do one more fun thing before we start dropping views on sheets. Okay. So I want you to click this 3D house at the very top. and it's going to open up a 3D view. Okay, and I don't know if you've got a 3D view that you want to use, great. If you don't, we'll probably just duplicate this 3D view. So I'm just going to take this 3D view and I'm going to right click it and say duplicate view and duplicate. I don't want to duplicate with detailing. I don't have any detailing on my 3D view. I just want to duplicate it. And yeah, I'll save the project. Sure. And since we're doing the bathroom upstairs, I'm going to rename this enlarged upstairs bathroom 3D. All right. So we now have a view that looks the same as everything else, but we just named it different. And that's fine, right? All we're doing is we created a view, and now we're going to work our magic. Okay. So this is a little bit tricky, but it's not very complicated. You just got to follow and watch my mouse kind of closely. So what we're going to do in this view, and we want to make sure, does everyone have their enlarged floor plan made, right? Something that says enlarged floor plan on your side. Has everyone got that? Yeah, thumbs up. I got not a whole lot of response. Cool. Right on. Okay, so what we want to do is we're going to take this 3D view and we're going to do what's called orienting to view, or we'll use the orient to view feature. And we're going to take this 3D view and orient it to the enlarged view that we created. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to go to this view cube. Okay, view cube up in the top right. You'll see at the bottom right this little arrow, and if you hover over it, it says context menu. Okay, we want to click that little arrow, and another menu is going to come up. Now, it's important the next time you're going to click is when we actually select the view. Everything from here is just moving your mouse. So we're going to go down to orient to view. And when we hover over orient to view, another window comes up. Move your mouse straight left to the floor plans, and another window comes up. And we want to go and select the one that says enlarged plan view, whatever you did, bathroom, kitchen, closet. I don't know. Right. And I'm going to go ahead and click this. Okay. So once again, to get here, we went to the 3D view that we created and we duplicated and we renamed enlarged upstairs bathroom 3D. I am going to go to the view cube. And when I hover over the view cube, this context menu button or icon shows up. Let's go ahead and click it. We're going to go down to orient to view, floor plan, and go select the floor plan of the enlarged view. Once you click it, it's going to take this whole thing, rotate it, make it go crazy. And now, if I click the corner of my view cube again, we now have a 3D view of just that bathroom. Or just whatever we wanted, right? Whatever you're taking a 3D view of. Okay. Does everyone have a 3D view that looks like their floor plan? Right on. Now we can do some stuff to it. Turn some transparencies on your walls, right? So if we did something like this, where I just kind of reset this using the corner, and let's say I wanted these walls to all kind of be transparent so I could see into it nicely. We could come down, because we could make this like hidden line or wireframe, but that looks really awful. Like it's hard to view a wireframe in 3D ISO because there's so much going on, right? However, we can view it in the shaded or the realistic. And if we go to our visibility graphics and we go down to walls, we can give them a transparency of like 60%. And when I click OK, whoop, is that what I wanted? Maybe not. I don't know. Why did that do that? Let's go back to shaded. There, 60%. That looks fine. It's just because it was cutting through some plywood. Okay, so you can change however you want to view it, right? You can change the roof on it. If you don't want to view the roof, I could just come here and literally turn my roof off. Now I won't see that roof, right? I'm going to see this because that's a ceiling. Okay, but you get the idea, right? You can alter it in that whatever way you want, so you can make it however visible you want. And so you can see through those walls, you can isolate them. You can also, if you click this cube on the very outside, this is what's called a section box. Okay, this is the way that it creates this 3D view. If for some reason you wanted to see, outside of this room, maybe when you did your enlarged view is too small, you can take that and drag that cube, and now I'm seeing into the next bedroom over. Okay, so you could do that for height, right? Now I can see the roof, and maybe I want to just go ahead and that's not my roof, that's my ceiling. But maybe I want to just go here and turn my ceilings off. Now I can see the whole height of that. Maybe I don't want to extend this far, right? And I can back it up. So you can play with that if you feel that it helps show something better. Maybe you just don't want to see that wall at all, right? And you could cut that out. Okay. So that choice is yours, right? I'm not here to dictate how to make your 3D view. I'm just here to show you how to do it. All right. So last but not least for today, we've done a lot. I know in the last 45 minutes, we have made 6 different views. We have made 1 sheet, and now it's time to put them all together. Okay, so Revit makes it super easy. The only thing that you need to realize is that when you take your views and you put them on the sheet, they are going to drop in and be numbered based on what you drop in first. Okay, so if I want, now does that mean I can't change it later? No, we can always go back and renumber things and reorder it if we want. But I always like to drop my enlarged 3D view last. I like to do my plan view first and then do my northeast southwest, and you'll kind of see. So let's follow along. If we go to the floor plan area of your project browser, you should see this upstairs bathroom enlarged plan view. Now, if I click and drag that on and I drop that on there, does that really fill the page? Is that really portraying what I want? I can make it a lot bigger, right? I can, 1/4-inch scale that's still pretty small in the grand scheme of things, okay? Especially if you're doing enlarged views and you're not doing rooms that are like, 30 by 30, right? We can get away with something a little larger. So 2 options when you're dropping things on. You can either drop them on and then we could change the scale here later, right? Right now it's at a 1/4-inch view scale. You can also see that down here. And I could change that to like 1 inch right here. You'll see it changes, cool, but it doesn't do anything with this bottom title. Okay, it kind of leaves it where it was. It doesn't make it the right size. So if you, and we'll just step back a second. Before you throw that on the sheet, if you go to the actual view and upsize it to 1/2 inch, or maybe I want to even do 1 inch equals a foot. Now, when I go and go to my sheet view and I drag this on, it's automatically going to have a title at the bottom that is the size of your view, right? So if you do need to change the scale, I do recommend removing it from the sheet, changing your scale, and dragging it back on. does keep it a little cleaner. You're not having to play so many games with this bottom bar. Okay.
Graham,
Um,
can you show once again how you change a scale?
Yes, sure. So let's just go ahead. I'm gonna do one that's not on a sheet. So I'm just gonna double click into the view. And right now, I set mine to 1 inch equals a foot, but it started out as 1/4 inch equals a foot. Okay, so you can change that scale here. You can also change that scale on the left-hand side in your view scale. And if this did have a template on it, you could have the scale is controlled by the template, right? So if we wanted all of our enlarged views to look the same, we would apply an enlarged view template, and all of them would be 1/2 inch scale with the same wall transparencies and the same. So all the bells and whistles that we did to one, we could apply to the others using a template. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right, so I'm going to change that back to 1 inch equals a foot. And just because I don't really care to see this right now, I'm going to turn off my reference planes, and that's going to get rid of that green line in the middle. And now, when I drag this onto my sheet, I've got a nicely cropped view and detail 1. Now we can go ahead and do something like this where we grab north wall. Now, if you do make one of them larger, the goal is to match everything, right? So if you enlarge one view to 1 inch scale, am I going to have all these other views fit if they're at 1 inch scale? Probably not, right? So maybe finding a happy medium at maybe 1/2 inch equals a foot is a nice happy medium. Okay, and again, you can change this on the fly on the sheet. You just have to click into here to be able to adjust that bottom bar because it will hold whatever the last view was. So now that that's on the sheet, we can go ahead and drop on the next views. And before I do this, let's go ahead and look at my scale. My scale on these is 1/4 inch, so I'm going to change it all to the 1/2 inch scale. When you change your scale, it also makes your dimensions a lot smaller. It actually keeps the dimensions the same size relatively, but it grows everything around it. So that way your dimensions are a lot cleaner, right? When you saw when I went from 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch, those dimensions got drastically smaller. Well, they didn't get smaller. Technically, everything else got bigger. Okay. So these dimensions are always the same size. It's just how big is the geometry being referenced at what scale. Okay. So I'm going to set this back to 1/2 inch, and I'm going to build on this one. You don't need to do this, but since I have multiple views that I want to have the same properties applied to, I'm going to come up here to view templates, and I'm going to create a template from current view. Actually, before I do that, I don't want to see those sections in there. So I'm going to go to my annotation categories and turn off these sections. Right. And I don't care to see that reference plane either. So I'll reference planes off. So now that I've got that kind of doctored the way I want to, I can create template from current view. And it's just saying, hey, take what you have, let's put it on a template, and then we can apply it to other views. So I'll call this enlarged walls 1/2 inch equals 1 foot 0 inches. Okay. Just because I like to include the scale in there, that way I could have the same template, but maybe one of them is a 1/2 inch template, one of them's a 1 inch template, depending on what scale size I want for what views, right? So now that I created that, enlarged walls 1/2 inch template is now here. And unfortunately, when you create it, I don't know why, but it doesn't automatically apply it. But what we want to do is I'm going to grab all 4 of these: Bath North, East, South, West, You'll see up here that I have 4 views selected. And I'm going to take that template and I'm going to apply that template to all 4 of those views. And now when I drop these views onto my sheet, they will all be looking really nice. So north view, east view, south view, and west view. Okay, something like that. Everything is looking the same, right? Oh, everything's being controlled the same. That looks like it has a, it's the same size. Okay. And then last but not least, we have the 3D view that we made. So you'll notice one thing, as you drop views onto a sheet, Revit now has this nice little check box that turns blue. So you can see if that view has been dropped on a sheet. Before, the only way to know is if you try to drop it on a sheet and it gives you this error saying, hey, this view is already placed on a sheet. You're like, dang, okay, thank you. Now you can kind of know that prior to that error. So, and then last but not least, let's drop that 3D view on. And let's go take a look at it real quick. It's going to make it the whole size of the scope box. So let's do this. We want to crop the view. Annotation scope box. I'll just leave it like that. And then I want to turn off my levels. Let's go to annotation. I want to turn off my levels. I don't care to see them. I want to turn off the section boxes. And I also want to turn off these scope boxes. Section boxes. I'm going to turn that back on. Perfect. Now, if I take this crop region visible off, I am left with just a 3D view, nicely cropped. And I'm going to put it at 1/2 inch scale, right? Just like the rest of them. Put it in an orientation that makes sense. Okay. Maybe I don't really want to see that back wall. Okay. I'm just going to pull it out. I think it makes more sense that way. Or, you know what? Maybe this isn't really even the right orientation. Maybe looking at it like this might be a little better. Okay. Or maybe it's something that you want to choose, right? Maybe it's a different perspective that's not exactly, a corner. And that's fine, right? If there's a perspective that allows you to see something a little better, by all means, you can use that. You could also duplicate this and have 2 different perspectives of the same ISO, right? So you could have one from one corner and one from the other. Anyhow, now that one's kind of ready to roll, I like that. I'm going to just click on it, drag it over, and lovely. And place on a sheet. And for some reason, sometimes it takes a little bit of playing with it, but now we can move this over. And we now have an enlarged view sheet. And when we go here, so if I call this sheet, and I'm going to call this A105 just to give it a better title, Architectural 105. Now we can see A105 and all of these views are referenced. Here's view 2. Go down to detail 2, right? 3, 4, and 5. All of those are there. Okay, and then you're not going to see a call out or a section for the enlarged view, but it's just kind of a complementary picture that we put with it. Any questions on that?
Yeah, Graham, I have a problem. Can I share my screen?
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Let me stop sharing and you can take it away. Go ahead, Dimitri.
Okay. So when I insert the 3D view.
So let's take the 3D view and just click delete right now. I know it seems scary, but all you're doing, don't delete it there. Just hit delete on your keyboard, the actual delete button. So it left the view there. It's still in your browser. We just removed it from the sheet. Okay.
Mhm.
So let's go to that actual 3D view, the enlarged bedroom 3D view. So now let's go take care of some of this stuff that we don't want to see. So if we go to VG, or visibility graphics, let's go turn off scope boxes. Go to annotation categories. Second one over. And let's see, was it scope or was it section that I turned off? It was scope boxes. So we want to turn off scope but leave section on. So go ahead and click OK. That's your first step. And that's going to get rid of all those lines. Okay. Now let's go back to your visibility graphics.
Visibility.
VG.
Yeah.
And let's go ahead and go to annotation categories again, and let's turn levels off. So now the only thing that should be showing is just that.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now if we close that enlarged bedroom.
Mm-hmm. Just close.
Yeah, just close it there. Yep. And then drag it onto that sheet now. Let's see what it looks like. There you go. Nice.
Yes, much better. Thank you.
Beautiful. Yeah, no, that looks good. So, but so you saw that there's going to be a couple different things that you need to turn off in order for your crop view to actually crop it down to as tight as you want it, because it's saying, hey, you want to see scope boxes? They're still in here, right? You want to see levels? They're still in here and being turned on. And so those were turned on, it makes your extents super huge, right? But now it's just cropped up nice and tight. And again, you could click that outside border on it. So go ahead and click into the 3D view, double click. Now on your sheet is fine, on your sheet. And then now you can zoom in. And if you wanted to, you could take that section box, right? If you could click that box right there. And now your arrows, and then you could change it, right? If you wanted to, if you maybe I don't need to show that wall, right? A lot of times in a 3D ISO of a room, you might not show the front two walls, right? You might back that up exactly, right? Back both those up right there. And now you can see the full room without obstruction of the walls. Or maybe you turn them transparent, right? But the point of the 3D ISO is to show the room, not to hide stuff, kind of. You know what I mean? So if you're gonna have it showing, let's make it some type of transparency to that wall so we can see that bed through it. Otherwise, I mean, might as well just look at the normal drawing, right?
Okay.
Cool.
Thank
Looks
you.
good. Nice organization and good cropping on your views there. Looks good.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a question on I missed the part about how to get the 3D view in the onto the sheet. I apologize.
The same way we get any view onto a sheet.
Just drag it over.
Yeah. But if you want to share your screen, you just want to make sure that your 3D view is kind of doctored up and tailored. Good night. Okay. Yeah, you should just be able to grab it, drag it over. Oh. So yeah, that looks good. You got all those other stuff off of there, right? I do see level on there, but it's cropped pretty tight, so it looks fine. So if you want to close that view, and then now just go drag it over to the sheet and drop it. Now zoom out. It's probably giant. Zoom out. Is it massive? See how big it is? So you still have something way out there. So go ahead and drop it right there, and let's see if we can see what's going on. So yeah, see, you still have all of those section boxes and scope boxes turned on. You just were so far zoomed in that we weren't seeing them. So go ahead and hit delete. Let's remove that from your sheet. Let's go back to the 3D view. That's okay. Now that you went back and reset it, now it shows the full extents of it. Now let's go ahead and go to VG and turn off those scope boxes. And it's in your annotation categories. So second tab over. Up to the top, it says model categories. There you go. Annotation, now down to section boxes. And we want to turn off, we want to leave section boxes on and turn off scope boxes. They're right next to each other. So leave section boxes on, go up. Go up. There's a couple more above you. Scroll up, please. There, turn off scope boxes. Okay, good. Now click OK. Now go ahead and close that view and drop it back on the sheet. And it's much tighter. There's something, I don't know how big it is. It still might have something else going on with it. What else are we seeing? Was it a different scale than the rest? You're muted. I haven't heard you the whole time.
Sorry. Yeah, it was at 3/4 to 1 foot, and it needed to be at 1/2 to 1 foot.
Okay, so now so close that view. Now drag it on, and you don't even need to close it. You just need to drag it on from there, but you just can't. There you go. And then you can crop it up a little bit if it's too big, but just drop it, and then you can move things around. So there's something still holding. Yeah.
Why isn't it? Can I?
Because hit escape, and then go click the line. It's because it's annoying. Go down and click the actual line. There you go, right there.
That right there?
No, that's the square. Yeah. Now you got the line, but you got to grab just the line, not the square. It's annoying. This is why I try to get people to crop up as much as they can prior to dropping them on sheets, because that bar is a freaking bitch.
So is it this line or is it this line?
It's the bottom line. Just
This
grab,
one.
click and move. Just move it.
Oh,
Keep dragging.
okay.
And then one thing that I'm going to use you as an example. I know you threw things on kind of quick.
Yeah.
One thing we want to make sure that happens is that any elevations that are side by side, that bottom level lines up all the way across the sheet. So drag that view down. So
This one?
Just click. No, you don't. Yeah, just click there and just drag, and you're gonna get a reference. There you go. Go up, right there. So that's giving you an alignment with the other sections. So now everything's in perfect alignment, right? So if you have elevation views, we want to see that level run all the way across, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I get it. I get the concept for
Just so
sure.
it's nice and lined up and you can see things
Yeah.
apples to apples, right? It's a little hard if things are kind of staggered.
Does that look okay though, or
Yeah, that looks fine.
okay?
So, I mean, I would probably remove your reference planes, and I mean, there's some stuff we could do to clean it up a little bit more, but yeah, I mean, you still need to detail it, right? There's no dimensions on it and that kind of stuff, but we didn't do that
Yeah.
today. So
But
we're
like
just
I
trying to
can.
get.
I'm sorry. I can go into one of these though, and
You can go into any of those and detail it, or
Yeah.
you can just double click and activate the view on the sheet and detail it. Either way is the same.
yeah. Okay.
All right. Is there anyone else that wants to share their screen? Any questions, comments, concerns about enlarged views? A lot easier than making enlarged views in AutoCAD?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're not having to draw every single piece.
And then redraw it every single time at a bigger scale, right? I mean, I guess you
Right.
could scale it, but yeah. All right. So that is the enlarged views. So we did 4 elevations with the enlarged views. Okay, so the next section the next topic we're going to cover is just our exterior elevations. very similar to what we did here, except instead of being inside an enlarged view, we're just going to be on our plan view. Okay, so we'll go to the main floor, and you may have some elevations already made. You may not. I'm going to pretend that you have no elevations already made and take the screen share back. Now I'm going to move my working sections out of the way because I don't want them right now. All right. And let's turn off. Just clean this up a little bit. All right. Cool. So what we're going to do, very similar to placing that internal elevation, except this time we're going to choose a building elevation and we're going to place them on the outsides. Okay, so you may have some already. If you have some elevations already that are building elevations on the outside and you want to use them, I have no problem with that. However, if you don't have anything detailed, I would probably suggest just going ahead and selecting any of those elevations and getting rid of them and then just making new ones, because I don't know where those, I mean, depends on your file. You could be right in the middle, right? But you could also have those all over the place, and moving them around, as we saw earlier, sometimes that back line doesn't necessarily go with it. So it's good practice just to make your own. And that's what I'm going to do. So if you drag that elevation, I don't know, within like 10 feet of a wall, it will try to automatically place it in that direction. Okay. So maybe it's not 10 feet, maybe it's 15, maybe it's 5. I don't know what it is. And it looks like it's about 10 feet. So I'm going to make one here facing north, one here, actually one here, one here, and one there. And before I get anywhere, I'm going to go ahead and click that elevation view. So the view meaning click the actual, not just the circle, but if you click the triangle, you actually open up the view for it and you see the extents and the range of the view. And we want to just take these and crop them down, move them so they make sense for your project. Oh. Now, if you accidentally grab that line like I just did, you can grab this and move it all over. If you accidentally put it in a place you don't want it, Control Z will get it back. And it's important just to try to grab the node, not the actual line. The node won't let you move it up and down. It'll just allow you to drag it along. But if you click the line, you actually can change the placement of this elevation. And that's something we probably don't want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and take that like that. And while I'm here, I'm just going to go ahead and name these. So east elevation, and I'm going to just put east ext elevation. And same thing for the next one. Pull this down a little bit. And I want to make sure I get the extents of the house. So if you need to drag your far clipping offset, make sure that, like, because if I grabbed it and stopped it here, I would not see, and I'll show you for an example. We'll go to this view. I will not see that left-hand side of the building, right? I don't see the garage. But if this far clipping offset is farther, like 50 feet, I now can see that garage, right? So you want to make sure that what you are cutting or clipping is actually going to be representative of the building, right? Because if I cut this short here, I no longer see this top half or this part of the garage, right? I just stop here. Okay, so I'm going to make sure I see that. And let's call this Same thing with this one, red. I want to make sure I take this and extend this down. Otherwise, I'm not going to capture the main portion of my house. If I go to view, you can see. See that I don't have the rest, but as soon as I change that and I increase the depth on it, I will now see the rest of that house. And if you've got decks or anything, right, you want to make sure that your extents go out far enough to capture that. And we'll take care of the elevation, the actual Z, so the level elevation when we look at the details. So last but not least, let's go back to my plan view. And last but not least, do this one. That will be my north. Right, and I should have something right here that shows elevations. And one thing that's nice about the new style of elevations is it does separate them by category or by type. So you do have your interior elevations in one drop down, and then all of our exterior elevations are in this drop down. So once I have created all these, cropped them up, I'm going to go ahead and open each one and adjust the height of this to make sure it's showing what I want to see and pretty much only what I want to see. This view, yeah, I'll capture the bridge in that view. And then same thing. Maybe this one I'm going to take and I'm going to use this enlarged walls, but instead of using the enlarged walls, I'm just going to duplicate it and call it exterior elevations. And I'll make that like 1/8 inch scale, which is what it is. All right. And I could apply that template once I crop it all up to all of my views. And just like before, we're gonna build a sheet, and maybe we need a couple sheets. Okay, that's fine if you need more than one. Crop this all up, and then I can select all 4 of these and apply that exterior elevations template, and they all are cleaned up at once. Last but not least, let's make a new sheet. I'll just call this one A104. You'll notice that the project information will stay the same, but the sheet name will be unnamed. And then I'll just call this exterior elevations. And just like before, we're going to drag and drop. North, east, east, south, west. And there we have it. Something like that that shows all these views. And now all these views I can take and I can detail them, right? So this is where I'm going to do all the detailing for the windows, or where the center line of my door is, right? Height of the window, right? All that type of stuff, right? Now you have views that we can detail and start putting sheets together, so we can make some type of set of drawing documents that we could ultimately build your house from. Any questions on things we covered tonight?
I just have a question is with like if I'm to do I use the VG command to get rid of the working sections and like basically same principle, VG, go to working sections, get rid of those, and then I'll be able, hold on, sweetie, and then I'll be able to drop that onto a sheet, for that level 1 or level 2 plan view.
Yep.
Same principle. Okay.
Same principle. The only thing is, if you want to take all the hard work that you did in your VG settings and save it, you can take that and come up here and go to view templates, create template from current view, and then build a template that says this is my floor plan template. And now you can apply that to your first floor and your second floor, right? So they look exactly the same, right? There's no sense in spending a ton of time doctoring something and making it look right if you're not going to use it again, right? So that's what the templates come into play. You don't want to go to every view and remove, right? So like right here, look, I've got all these I've got all these levels, right? If these weren't controlled by a template, I would have to go here, go to VG, go down to levels, turn them off. Do that same thing, for each one of these. Whereas since they are controlled by a template, clicking the template is the same thing as my VG. I now can just turn off levels, and instead of turning it off for one view, it just did it for all 3. Or all 4, but we weren't seeing levels in this because I wasn't extending my view far. So templates are there just to take what you've already done and be able to apply it to a different view.
Okay, and like when I am say like I'm one of my elevation views and I have wireframe, I think that's what you have turned on as wireframes for those, right?
For my elevation,
Yeah, or is it
no, I
shape?
got hidden line. You never want to view an elevation view in wireframe.
All right, yeah, okay, yeah, I turned on hidden line and I was like, oh no, that looks about right, but I just
Yeah,
wanted.
so wireframe is it's a tough thing. It's fine if you're modeling and you want to view it that way. If you're looking through stuff, right? If we're working on a family and I know what's going on, when you're displaying something for a sheet, you'll never be on wireframe. Okay. Because your eyes, unless you're creating, and even if you are creating something that would need to be on wireframe so you could see through, you could build it with a transparency so that way you could see through that way instead of seeing all of those lines that now just go bonkers. Right, because this on wireframe, with me going all the way through my building, like, watch what happens. So if I change this down to wireframe, and does that make sense?
Yeah, that's what mine looked like when I had it on wireframe. Like,
Right.
yeah.
So what are you even looking at? Right. Well, I know that I'm looking at the shoe rack right here that I created with some shoes and flip-flops on it. But unless you're the one that built it, you're probably not going to understand exactly what's going on. So by all means, always, if you want to use shaded, totally cool with that, right? Whatever, just don't use wireframe because we can't see through the building. We do not have X-ray vision, right? So if we needed to show that in X-ray vision, we build an enlarged view, right, of something. We turn some transparency on. We do some fun stuff. We make it look good. This is always going to look like garbage, right? It just, especially since I'm cutting 50 feet through my building, every wall, every piece of furniture, every stair, every family is going to be picked up.
And then one more question. I don't know if Adam has something to say. He has his microphone off, but I was just going to say something about the schedules. If you at some point could touch on that, dropping
We will be going
schedules
over
onto the-
schedules next week.
Okay.
So next week's schedules, and then it's also we're going to be looking at like your actual floor plan and your schedules and getting all your sheets built next week. The goal is if you have your project done, or at least to the point that you can dimension it and put your views together, you should be able to complete everything next week. Now, if you need another week, that's fine, right? But the third day, I'm not going to be giving instruction on the last night of class when final projects are due, right? I'll answer questions, but I'm not going to be teaching new stuff that you needed to know, right? So next week we'll wrap up anything that we need to do with getting schedules on sheets, any view questions you might have, dimensioning questions, right? We still want to make sure that, and maybe shaded, I said put it in shaded. Well, that's great, but you need to make sure that the dimensions are in a way that if it isn't shaded, I can read that, right? I can't read that dimension, right? So safest thing is just to put it into hidden line. That's what we use 99% of the time when you print out a PDF. Besides if you have a special enlarged view or something with color in 3D but for the most part, when you're looking at a dimension drawing, it's always just black and white, right?
Was that what you ask Adam? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if I figured we'd cover it eventually.
And I mean, and schedules
I'll work
are
on the proof.
schedules. I mean, play with them yourself too. Like it's something that they're very straightforward once you find out that here, let's just build one. So I'm going to build a new schedule. This one I'm going to build a window schedule. So because I got a lot of windows. And I'll click OK. And the next thing comes up, says, hey, what do you want to schedule? I want to schedule the type. Oh, windows. I want to schedule the type, the width, the height, let's do the head height, the level, and I'll do count. So these are all the fields that are available. This is what I'm scheduling. So I'm going to schedule the type, the width, the height, the head height. Actually, I don't want the head height. I want the sill height because that's more useful to me. The level and the count. Okay, and I could click OK, and it's going to go ahead and just spit out this big old schedule that's got all this stuff on it. Okay, is that cool? Yeah, but I gotta do some counting. I don't like schedules that report ones, right? Like that doesn't do me a whole lot of good. I'm still counting up instances. So utilizing the sorting and grouping, we can sort by type and then by level, I guess. And I'll take this itemize every instance off, turn my grand totals on, and my count is going to, I think it automatically does this now. Yeah, it auto counts. And now I can see I've got, four of these upstairs, 4 of them on the main floor, 2 of them on the upstairs, 1 of these on this upstairs, a total of 38 windows in the house. Okay. Are they all named perfectly? No. Is that something that I would probably like to do? Yeah. And one thing you can do is when you're in a schedule, you can actually edit the type name right here. And I can just make this 24 by 36 inches. And I can make this 24 by 36 inches. And I can make this 24 inches by 72 inches. Oh, 24 inches by 72 inches. Yeah, doesn't let me do that one. Must be locked down. 36 by 54. So anyhow, you get the idea though, right? So these are all now sorted by different. Maybe I don't care about the level and I just want to care about totals. I could come back to here and take level out of my sorting. And now it's just going to sort by type. So total of 38. And here's all of the different counts of the different window types. So same thing for walls, doors, furniture, rooms. Like I could do, I've got rooms in mind, so I could do a room schedule. Okay, so I'll just make a room schedule and I just want to schedule the name, the number, and the area. Oh, I thought I had rooms. Yeah, that's weird. 24 items available. Oh, well, apparently there's no rooms, but that's doesn't make any sense because I should go here. Oh, there are no rooms. What happened to all my rooms? My rooms all got deleted. Oh no. Oh, that's why I can't schedule rooms if they're not there. Somehow they got wiped out.
So
But-
you
Those are just
you
like
just
temporary
name
tags.
just by like naming the rooms, then that'll create.
Well, if you want to do it, you go to architecture, you got a room, you click in here, and then name this exercise room. And then now when I go to my room schedule, that exercise room shows up. Okay, so I had all of them named and labeled and annotated on my main floor plan, but somehow it looks like they got removed. So, but no, rooms are pretty easy to put in if you want to use them. It's not a requirement by any means, but you just click this room. And if you wanted to like split this, let's say that I wanted this to be like workout area B, and then this be game room. I could come here and draw what's called a room separator between this wall and this wall. And now when I put a room in, it will do one side of the room and then the other side. So instead of, if you have an area you want to break up, you can use a room separator to create that space. So if you want to use rooms, more than you can. And then again, I was just trying to show you something that would schedule, and I didn't realize I didn't have any in there anymore. That I did have them all because the whole thing was roomed up. But here you go. You can see your square footage, and it's kind of fun to see everything. I guess last but not least, we'll do one more schedule for the night, and then we'll call it. We're gonna build a wall schedule. So just walls. And I'm going to do it by type, by length, and then I guess that's probably top offset. I'll do that too. So type, length, top offset, and let's do there should be an area. Let's do that too. That should be the surface area. All right. Filter, I don't care. Sorting and grouping, I want to sort by type. Then I want to sort by top offset. Itemize every instance, no. And we'll try that. Yeah, that's pretty good.
I think it's cool how it gives you the square feet. I mean, I know that you can, like in Bluebeam, you can figure out like square feet of like of an area, So
Right.
why even need Bluebeam if you can just spit out, blueprints from Revit that already give you the square foot of a room or the square foot of a wall like automatically generated rather than having to do all
So
that
here,
extra legwork.
so here's the thing. Are you the architect or are you a third party?
I'm definitely not the architect.
So that's why you use Bluebeam, is because the architect, they're in control of their file. They will not let you have their Revit file. Do I get a link to it? Yeah, because I'm in virtual construction, I get a link to it. But as a project manager, you would not get a link to that file. You would go through and you would be doing it in Bluebeam. They're not going to give you that information.
That's dumb.
It is, but that's the way of it. Did you draw it? Nope. Okay. I mean, that's kind of how it is. It's like it's proprietary to them. All that information they put in, right? So they're not going to make it so easy for you to get it out that you can literally just plop some numbers in an estimating software and get the bid, right? So you got to look at it that from that perspective too. Is it's and when you get documents are PDFs. They're not a Revit file. You're not getting. Now, if you model it, absolutely, you can output whatever data you want, right? But that data is not going to be outputted by the architect or somebody that's going out for bid for a job and they're giving you every answer, right? They want you to make sure that you know what you're doing. I mean, everyone's bid would be the same. Ultimately, same square footage, same this, have a same markup, right? And that's not the case, right? So they want you to miss something. That's the biggest thing. They want you to miss something. They don't want to give you all the answers.
That's kind of devious, if you
It
ask
is. It is, but okay, you're trying to get the job, right? So it's a hard fight. Like, do I agree that it should be like this? Absolutely not, right? I think once that model is built, it should be public knowledge, just like any court document, right? Once a court document goes into the court system, everyone has access to it. Same thing here. I think that it should be. I think what they need is like a Revit viewer or a Revit non modeling that you could take someone else's model and not, just essentially it's a read only, right? So you could go in and you could get information out of it, but you couldn't edit it. You couldn't do that kind of stuff. The problem with that is that when they make it the read only, you can't even produce your own schedules, right? So you can't. It's still locked down. So it's just as good as having a set of plans. So now, if they're smart and they do it right, they'll include a room schedule, and all those rooms should be listed in there. Okay, I mean that should be part of their contract or their document should show schedules, but it's up for you to find them, locate them, all that kind of stuff. And most of the time, it doesn't give you all of the information you want. It's not going to give you every square footage of the wall, right? They're going to make you do some math to calculate some coating finish. How many gallons of paint do I need, right? So I don't agree it's the right way, but it's the way that we live in, and I don't see it changing anytime soon, unfortunately. So.
like everybody's got to play the same game, everybody's playing in the same ballpark essentially.
Right.
Oh man, that's can be frustrating. I would think, or it is.
Yeah.
Not I think I know it
Yeah.
is.
And I mean, Bluebeam has done a pretty good job, to be honest, on taking PDFs and not only scaling them, calculating areas, whatever. It does a great job if you set it up right, calibrate it, and I mean, but it's not the same, right? It's not CAD. It's not. It's still just I'm snapping to this line. So what I think is a line, but really it's snapping to an ink pixel, which how big is that? Huge, right? So it's only as good as it is. And you go to 16th of an inch tolerance, it's really not 16th of an inch tolerance. It's still about 1/8 inch. It just tries to report it in 16ths, and it's not great. But I don't see that changing. All right. I'm not trying to bore anyone to death. Anyone else got questions, comments, concerns? If not, I will see you next week and start posting this video. Right on. Well, thank you guys for your time this evening. We got one more class of instruction, kind of like tonight, where you're going to have a first hour or so is going to be work on your stuff. If you got a question or something, I'm going to try to answer it, check in. Next week, I want you to, if you're someone that doesn't have your content all done, okay, by next week, our content should be done. We should be at that point finishing any detailing, any views, any schedules, that kind of stuff. But the content should be in there, okay? So that's the goal by next class, is to have all that content in there. And, you know, if you think you've bit off more than you can chew, okay, maybe it's time to evaluate. Okay, it's not too late to start over. If it's a massive project and you're like, oh my gosh, there's no way I'm going to finish this. Let's be realistic. Okay, 5-6 hours of work is not a whole lot of time, right? And you could do a small house in that, no problem. Okay, so if it is something that you are feeling like, oh God, I can't get this done, I'm not going to be able to detail this, the more you draw, the more you have to detail. Like, that's just it. I need to know what's going on, right? So if you've got more content, you've got to detail more. It's just, it is what it is. So don't overwhelm yourself with so much content that you need to provide, you know, 100 pages of details to make it look good, right? All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening. And I will see you guys all next week.
Thank you, Graham.
Thank you, guys. Have a
Graham.
good evening.
Have a good night, everybody.